Main Ceramic Art Studio and maker behind Gem City Ceramics, and welcome to the Gem City Throwdown. I am joined by two other local potters. If you all want to introduce yourselves and tell us a little about your pottery experience.
My name is Lisa Dalt, and our pottery experience, wow, we started making pottery about 9 years ago. I was a stay-at-home mom with a couple kids living out in the country and kind of going a little bit crazy. And my husband, being very thoughtful, knew that I needed to get into something. And so he bought a kiln off Craigslist. And that was about 9 years ago now. And we're almost full-time potters. Not quite there, but we're almost.
So I'm Mandy Thompson. I am more of a hobby potter and really just enjoy this craft. I've been doing it for about 7 years. Started with just a class with friends when I lived out in California, and it really blossomed. I knew I wanted to continue doing it when I moved back to Ohio, and then I met Sarah and just started helping her whenever she needed it. So today I will be presenting our first challenge of the day, and that will be throwing a donut base. So we are working with about 4.5 pounds of clay, which is a fair amount of clay. Have you ever thrown a donut base, either of you? I learned one time and demoed it, and I can't remember if it was even successful, but I remember it was very challenging because there's a lot of little pieces to it, and it is a big chunk of clay, so it's not necessarily the easiest skill. No, yeah, but it's really neat. Have you ever tried it?
I have never.
All right.
I have never even attempted to make one.
Awesome. All right, so I'm gonna run through a demo of doing the whole entire thing, and then we're gonna give you all an opportunity to try it yourself and see how it goes. No pressure. All right, my first step I like to do is cone up my clay. Really, the purpose of coning up is just getting all of that, what I call wiggly wobbliness, to the top. Try to cone all of that clay up and get all the unevenness on top. So whenever I push it back down, we're a little bit more in the center than we started. I am now gonna do my proper centering step. I stick my left hand on the outside, right hand on top here. And we're going to get this to about, I would say this is about like 8 inches wide. All right, so this is now my centered chunk of clay that I am going to open up. I use the sponge as an extension of my fingers whenever I throw. So I'm gonna go all the way, unlike throwing like a cylinder per se, I'm gonna go all the way down and hit my bat here. And I'm going to pull towards myself, open that up. To about 3 inches, 3 to 4 inches there. Push that down just a little bit. And now I'm going to do, similar to what I would do with opening and widening for a cylinder, I'm gonna do, but in between these 2 chunks of clay here. So I'm gonna push that down. And I want like about a 1/2 inch of a base here. So what I mean by that is for like a mug, I usually leave like maybe a quarter inch, but now I quarter to a 1/2 inch, but now I want more of like a 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch, because we're not gonna do it today, but how I would trim this, I would be flipping it over, and I want enough so that I can actually get the contour that I want. So I want like a pretty thick base there. All right, so I'm kind of happy with my opening there. Now I'm essentially gonna be throwing 2 cylinders. So I'm gonna be throwing an inside cylinder and an outside cylinder, and then we will join those together. I'm gonna start with my inside one. The hardest part, I think, about throwing donut bases is kind of getting out of your own way. Because you've only got this little amount of space there. So I want to throw my, or rather pull my inside vessel before I start on that outside. I'm also, you can take a peek in here, I'm also starting to like kind of make a, kind of carving in with my fingers there. We will be trimming it later, but this just helps give it a little bit more of a shape. And I'm not gonna start bending it the whole way, but I will start giving it its shape there, pulling it out. So now I'm gonna pull my outside cylinder. This is what I mean by kind of getting out of my own way, because I've got to be cautious of what my left hand is doing. I'm just gonna try to pull straight up. Press my lip. It's also important not to, whenever I'm re-wetting the surface, to not stick a bunch of water in there, because the last thing we want is like a pool of water stuck in the inside of our donut while it's drying. And I'm gonna be throwing kind of as tall as I can with this outside one. I'll try to get a little bit more on the inside if I can. And then this isn't always necessary, but I will just demo it in case that it kind of comes up while you're throwing it. This has like a slight little wobble, so I'm just gonna take my needle tool and cut off the top here. Ooh, that wasn't a very clean cut, but that's okay, we won't see it later. And just kind of take that off so that whenever I form it together, it is actually straight and not one side has a lot more play than the other. So now we are going to be joining these two sides. So I'm gonna start with that inside again, being cautious not to get a bunch of water inside my donut.
This is where I start to get a little nervous.
Yeah. And I just kind of go back and forth. I don't like necessarily get my inside the whole way it needs to go. Okay, play with my inside, now I'm gonna bring in my outside. Sometimes I even just go ahead and kind of collar, but unlike, we're working with a much larger vessel, so I'm tending to use my whole forearm. You can see it just start to want to join together. I'm gonna go back from the inside, push that in. Usually whenever we attach clay to clay, we like to score and slip, right? But we're working with like wet clay on the wheel. So I do just kind of rough it up a little bit, because we're gonna smooth it out in a second. It's just, I feel like I get a better joint by doing that. All right. I'm gonna take my metal rib. I use a metal one. You can use one of those nice plastic ones, but the ones that actually bend, not the super stiff ones. And I bend it to my shape, and this just smooths out that joint. You can kind of go all the way. And we're really only focusing on this side, right? We can create that, the same shape later whenever we trim it. So I'm really only worried about this side. I'm just gonna keep making sure that I don't have any lines from my seam left. Well, I think
Just made that look so
no pressure here. And that's a donut face.
Yay!
Now you try.
All right.
so let's take it for a spin, you two.
I'm nervous. I'll be honest.
Come on.
There's only one way out of this. And that's forward.
Yeah, I would say that, I mean, the first couple steps, this is what I'm sure you're used to. We're just kind of coning up, pushing down, and getting that big chunk of clay in the center. Get that
Lisa,
big
wait
chunk
for
of-
me. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I don't know what I'm doing.
I'm just trying to push it.
4.5 pounds is not an easy amount to center, I will say. Widen this out a little bit more. Now you're making that inside channel, and you want to leave about 1/2 inch of a base, so don't push down too hard because you want to be able to trim. Beautiful. That looks like a or a bun. Is that a bun?
A bundt cake.
Yes.
A bundt.
All right. Awesome.
Now what do I do? Now I'm togethering.
Yes. So I start with my inside,
Okay.
and kind of just pull out. And now this is kind of the hard part, coloring that in.
Which part wasn't the hard part? I'm waiting to find that one.
Let me get this. I was doing a little shoring up here.
There you go. Get rid of that.
They did it! They touched! Ah! Why doesn't it look like yours?
I can tell you're a thin thrower. I also have to work through that as well. And so you just got a lot more height than I did,
Oh my
which
goodness.
is totally fine.
They touched.
Oh, that looks awesome.
I have one speed. Fast and Furious or I'm dead.
All right. So now I need to get this wall up, right?
Yeah.
I'm a 4.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know what I am. See, I clearly I had a little wobble from the beginning, and it plays out through the entire thing.
I tell people when they're first learning pottery, because the question I always get is this centered enough? And I say, well, it's either in the center or it's not in the center. And this is what happens whenever you choose, if you've got a little wobble, it's good to work through it while you're still in the centering process, or you're gonna have to pay for it later, right?
Yes, I think I'm gonna pay for it here soon.
And you might even want to try your forearms.
That was helpful.
All right.
Go all in.
There you go. Hug it.
You will submit to me.
There you go. It's forming. Yay! It's connected. Like I tell students, you'll never see your piece of clay going around in a circle again. So if it has a little bit of a wobble, it's okay. And I've seen people use donut bases as the base of all sorts of different things. I've seen teapots made out of donut bases.
What?
They're beautiful. Pitchers. I just tend to flatten out one of the sides there,
Okay.
so it will sit on a surface nicely. And then I'll cut out a hole, and so you can put some dried florals and all that kind of stuff.
So I've got more, but cake donut.
Everyone's got their preference.
Great job! But we were successful. And I gotta say, I'm very proud of myself for getting through this. That's a big piece of clay for one, and to make it into a cylinder feels like really, really good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Because I felt like at one point with that wobble, I didn't know if it was gonna turn out. So
This is terrifying. It's done. I learned something new, and I love it. Yeah.
you.